right, hello everyone. Thank you for coming. Today I'm going to be talking about cost-effective and reliable automation, and I'm going to champion a method in doing so by building your own AGV. So my name is Andrew Kaufman. I work for Meiden in America. We're a supplier of AGV kit solution, and I'm not really going to teach you anything new today, to be honest with you. I'm not going to introduce some kind of fantastic new technology or any groundbreaking concepts. But my goal in this presentation is to get you to think differently about AGVs and automation. Recently, the AGV market and industry has grown drastically. Just in the past few years, numerous suppliers have come about, and they've introduced numerous types of solutions. And as a result, there's a lot of information about AGVs and automation that you might get confused by. There's so much out there, we start to lose focus on what's really important. We have this mantra, automate, automate, automate. And we start to really lose the real goal of automation, which is to reduce costs and improve efficiency. So today I'm going to be talking about some of the perhaps common misconceptions about AGVs and also the common problems with implementing an AGV solution. And I'm going to be offering a new way of thinking that can help you refocus on what's important, and hopefully provide a good solution for yourself. So when I talk about mainstream AGVs in this presentation, what I want you to know is that we're talking about these AGVs. They're basically a turnkey solution. We call them unit load AGVs, where you put the load on top of the AGV, or it could be something that tugs a load across the factory floor, whatever it is. Maybe they'll use laser triangulation for a navigation system, or they'll use SLAM, simultaneous localization and mapping. That's what I'm talking about when I say a mainstream AGV. And you're going to see a lot of them out in the show. But there's nothing particularly wrong with those AGV solutions, and I'm not saying that those suppliers or their approach is necessarily wrong. It could be right for you guys. But I want to adjust the way that we think about them and offer an alternative. So I'm going to recommend that you build your own AGV, and I'm going to talk about how. And I'm going to talk about real-world examples that our company has delivered. So the big question is ROI. That's really the main point of establishing an AGV system to begin with. We're trying to save money on labor. We're trying to improve efficiency, right? We're trying to be better in general, and we're trying to do it at a reduced rate. Typical AGV costs could be $70,000 or more on the high end. The difficult part, and if you've already gone to some AGV suppliers already, typical question is going to be, how much does it cost? And they might say, okay, well, $50,000. Well, what is that? $50,000, okay, I'll take your $50,000 proposition, I'll implement it in my facility. Oh, you want a control system for it? Oh, okay, well, that's $20,000 extra. Oh, you want to use this control system forever? Well, that's $5,000 per year in software licenses. You don't know what you're getting into necessarily. So that's one of the common misconceptions that you have to watch out for. And then also you have to think about maintenance. What are the maintenance costs associated with this thing? If this thing goes down, how long am I going to be down for? Is this a simple technology where one of my guys can, make a quick fix on the factory floor and it's up and running in maybe less than an hour? I don't know. Maybe it's something that you have to call the supplier, then the line is down for 2 days. You're waiting. Maybe it's difficult to schedule the visit with the supplier in the first place. Meanwhile, you're losing tens of thousands of dollars on your line and you're in crisis mode. And there's also the learning curve costs. How long is it going to take to train people on this application? Can you get buy-in from all your users on the floor? Are they going to be interested in using this AGV? Or are they going to be skeptical of it, and then it doesn't even have a chance to successfully lift off because everybody hates it from the get-go? All of these costs have to be considered when you implement an AGV system. If you do something that's more mainstream and technologically complex, I think you're going to run into a lot of these costs. Maintenance, downtime, learning. Now, we tend to think, well, the reason I come to this show is because I don't want to have to deal with AGVs in my facility. I just want to be able to have a supplier come in, implement this solution, and then, wash my hands of it and walk away. There's prices to pay for that, though, I think. Typical cost of labor. What is the cost of the problem we're trying to solve? Okay, well, if we're talking full-time pushing carts around, maybe it's $35,000 or more, including benefits and things like that, but not necessarily. That's the price of a full-time pushing carts day and night. Well, guess what? They're not pushing carts day and night. You have somebody that's maybe stopping to talk about the latest day of 90 Day Fiancé with their coworker or something like that. Maybe they're, stopping getting a coffee, Maybe that's not their full-time job, pushing carts. Maybe they're on something else too. They're on a different line and they switch back and forth. You have to think about the real cost of the work that it is you're doing, or you're trying to automate, I should say. Complexity of the technology, now that ties into the maintenance costs we just talked about. How much does this technology require the supplier to be involved? When you get this, are you constantly relying on them for support? Could lead to significant downtime, like I explained, but also the employee knowledge transfer can be difficult. Imagine you're in automotive probably, or some kind of manufacturing, warehouses. Turnover can be high. And when somebody who's an expert on this AGV leaves, what is the true cost of that? You want something simple that you can easily teach to everybody, and it's common perhaps among multiple facilities. Let's say you start in one facility, you go to another one, and you want to implement the same or similar system. Wouldn't it be nice to have a very simple concept that's applicable through multiple applications? And maybe what the mainstream suppliers are offering are not quite what you need. Maybe it could be the solution, but perhaps it's over-engineered. Maybe it's a waste of time, you find out, because you implement the solution. Okay, it's very nice, it does what we want, but is this really what we need? Or maybe it's the case that it just doesn't work out. Maybe the technology is too complex. Users start to abandon it, or they don't use it to its full capability, and it's a waste of time and money and effort. So an alternative to these mainstream solutions, which I want to talk about, is building your own AGV. Okay, what are the advantages of doing so? Like I said, you probably come to this show thinking, well, I don't really want to build my own AGV. I want somebody else to build it. That's why I'm here. I'm talking to suppliers who can supply one for me. Well, you can do that, and there's advantages to doing that. And we'll talk about those, but there's also disadvantages to doing that. Building your own AGV is actually more cost-effective than you think it can be. There tends to be a conception of customization in the sense that it can be expensive, because if you want something that's custom and unique, it tends to be a one-off and it tends to be more expensive. That's not necessarily the case, because it's completely tailored to your application. If you start simple just with the building blocks and build only what you need, you're eliminating the over-engineering costs and functions that you don't need. It's simpler and easy to maintain, and it's flexible, it's scalable. The type of solution that we offer, this AGV kit, which I'll be introducing shortly, can be easily modified and upgraded. Let's say you're just dipping your toes into the automation world. You never used AGVs before. Well, do you want to start with something complex? I don't think so. The reason is, just like we talked about already, it could be difficult to get off the ground. Users don't buy into it. They're confused by the technology, they don't want to adopt it, and it fails before it even takes off. Better to start simple and say, okay, well, now that we got this down, let's try to automate a little bit more. let's introduce a PLC, let's introduce a wireless system, let's introduce something that can really be more towards full automation. And then you get to that point. So our company has this kit type solution, and we're not the only one by any means, but of course I'm going to talk about mine today. So with the AGV kit, you have three options basically to build your own AGV. One is to retrofit a push cart and transform it into an AGV. Another is to purchase an AGV kit and build your own AGV. And the last is to purchase an AGV kit as a turnkey solution from the supplier. And I'll talk about the advantages and drawbacks of each one. All right, so retrofitting an existing car. This is potentially the cheapest solution. All right, but it has limited possibilities. Now, if you're dealing with a truly existing car, meaning it's already at your facility, and you're trying to make that into an AGV, it might not necessarily work. The dimensions of the car might not be quite right for the drive unit. Might take some modification. Now, there's another way. If you're starting from scratch and you're going to actually buy the cart with the AGV kit together, now there you might have something. You could buy the drive unit, the AGV kit, for example, and you find a cart that has good dimensions that fit that. You could build a car for maybe less than $10,000, less than $20,000. Who knows? All right. Now, in such cases, typically only the drive unit, meaning the motor, controls, guidance mechanism, and some safety sensors are all that you need. It's extremely cost effective. But let's say it's not that easy. It's usually not, to be honest with you. You have something that's kind of a difficult process. You know, a lot of you might be in automotive where there's an engine or something that you have to mount to the AGV or some kind of subassembly. It might be too awkward for just your standard push cart. Well, you could build the frame of the AGV yourself and integrate it with our components, and then you have your AGV. All right, the build costs are easy to track and manage. The maintenance, usage, and future upgrades are easier because it was built in-house. You know what it is, you know what you got yourself into. You know the system just as well as we do. And this is not totally supplier hands-off, by the way. You know, companies like ours specifically, it's not like we sell you the kit and we walk away and say, okay, you're on your own. We give you guidance on how to best implement this solution with the AGV kit. I'll give you an example. We had a customer we delivered to just last month, actually. We actually provided the system for them turnkey. They said, okay, well, we're kind of comfortable with it already. We want to try making our own. I said, okay, that's a great idea. You have a lot of capabilities yourself. They're a construction equipment manufacturer. And they have all the capability to make a metal frame. I mean, just to give you some insight on how simple it is, we have a demo kit at our booth our sales team put together. If a sales guy can do it, anybody can do it, let me tell you, okay? It's not too difficult, okay? We'll guide you, we'll help you we'll give you some feedback on what the best way to implement the solution is, but largely the power can be in your hands, the cost control can be in your hands. Maintenance is easier because you built it, you know what's going on. That's another option. Now the last route you could go is turnkey. Now, like our company, for example, we provide the components, but we also work with an integrator, and we can provide you the full turnkey solution by itself. Okay? And the advantage to that is it's done by professionals. Yeah, it still can be cost effective because you have a lot of input in the process. You say exactly what you want and what you don't want, what you don't need. And the nice thing is we're experts in the industry. You guys might not be so familiar with AGVs, so you can depend on us a lot to help you get going and show you how AGVs work. Now, we have set up and commissioned the system, and really the same in the last stage, right? Again, we're not totally hands-off. We'll help you set it up. We'll help you commission on site. We'll be there, and certainly we'll be there for maintenance and after-sales support. But you can also have us do the whole process. All right, so that's all nice in theory. What does the real applications look like? Well, what I'm going to show you now is graduating from very simple, you could even call it primitive, but I think it's beautiful in the fact that it's so cost effective. And then we're going to get more complex. So very simple, right here. You have a simple aluminum pipe frame body, okay? You could even use like 80-20 aluminum frames or something like that, right? It could be a unit load or it could be a tugger, right? This is actually both. It's kind of hard to see from this picture, but it could be a unit load AGV in the sense that you could use that white platform to put whatever you want on it. Or there's actually a hitch in the back and you can just hitch it to a cart and then pull the load along. It's very simple controls and software. This one runs on magnetic tape. All it does is it reads the commands on the floor and it executes the commands based on what the configuration of the tape you have. And actually, a lot of people have concerns about magnetic tape, but I will tell you that magnetic tape is extremely cost effective. We talked a little bit about complexity of the technology. If you have a SLAM system, what are the odds that you're going to have somebody in your facility that is an expert on SLAM? And even if they're an expert on SLAM, if they go in that control box, are they going to avoid the warranty on your supplier's product? With magnetic tape, if there's a problem with the magnetic tape, you peel off some magnetic tape, you put it on the ground, you're good to go. Chances are you're not even going to have to call the supplier. It's cost effective, easily maintained, and you can acquire your own batteries. You'll notice that this one is just using regular marine batteries. These are 12-volt batteries tied in series to make 24-volt power. You don't have to go that route. You could use a lithium ion if you're so inclined, but in my experience, they tend to be expensive. It's very simple. But again, are we in the business of trying to find this sexy solution that looks good on the factory floor? Are we in the business of making money and trying to save costs? I think it's the latter, and I think that's why you're here today. And you can add safety features to this. You can customize it as you go, right? This still has safety features on it. It has the sensor in front. It has a safety bumper as a backup. It has the signal tower, melody unit. You can add these customizations to it. And our solution, for example, I would consider kind of open source. You can easily get into our control box. And as long as your option that you're adding runs on 24-volt DC power, you can already add something. If you don't like the sensor we provide, you can use a key-on sensor that you find on the market. You could use a tape switch bumper, right, instead of our bumper. It's up to you. If you have a preference, then you can switch to that. As long as it runs on 24-volt DC, you're fine. All right, so let's talk about something a little bit more complex. All right, this system here is used to transport gear sets. So it's a system of 8 AGVs. And actually this cart, I mean, it's kind of hard to see because it's built up over it, but I'll go back a few slides. That's this. That's more or less all what it is. There's a PLC involved, but it's a very simple PLC. This runs by going to the different stations, and when it gets to a station, it says, okay, am I ready to unload? Receives the signal, sends a signal, engages the rollers. The rollers move the gear sets onto whatever it is that it's unloading onto. And then you have your system. It's a more automated way. In this case, we removed 8 human operators, increased the line efficiency by 100%, and management received a reward for cost savings. Hey, that's always nice. Let's get a little bit more complicated yet. This is the same AGV kit under all of that. More complicated, you see. So on this is actually a front-end module production line. It's 14 AGVs. You'll notice that they have this kind of turntable. This orange unit right there, that's a turntable. The operator can turn around the turntable and modify different parts of the front-end module. By doing so, they were able to remove 3 human operators. Think about it, with this turntable concept, you can actually remove parts of the production line because on a traditional conveyor belt, you might not be able to have this turntable. It might not be practical. Well, in AGV, it's very simple because it's a standalone unit. You can turn around the turntable, do 2 processes at one station, for example. This system actually uses wireless switches and also has a fleet management system. There's a PLC on board with each AGV. It's pretty automated. So this is the scalability that I'm talking about. You can go from very simple to very complex. But the point I'm really trying to make is that let's not dog the simple. If you need more complicated, that's fine. There's solutions out there that have more complicated. We can provide more complicated. But is that really what you need? You need to really target what is it that you're trying to automate. Do you really need something that's overbuilt and underutilized? So what are the takeaways? Okay, well, I said kind of them just in the past couple of minutes, but there's a lot of hidden costs with mainstream AGVs, okay? A lot of costs we don't think about. When you go shop around at these booths for AGVs, ask the supplier, what does maintenance look like? What does the setup cost? What does the software cost? Usually there's a software licensing fee. In the case of our AGV kit, the software is included with it completely. You get it for life. It's not beautiful software, I'll admit. It's very simple, but it's effective. Again, what is the goal that we're trying to accomplish? Are we trying to accomplish sexy? Who has the most beautiful and sexy facility? Or are we trying to save costs and improve efficiency in an effective way? Now you can build your own AGV kit. That's the method I recommend, right? And it can be cost effective no matter how you do it. You can retrofit an existing cart, you can build your own, or you can have us do it. I think either way is going to be more affordable, cost effective than a traditional turnkey solution. And the reason why is because you're involved, you have the input, you are specifying exactly what you want and what you don't want. And there's simplicity. It's not a technology that you don't need, right? It's my presentation. It's a very short one, and I would like to open it up to question and answers and open discussion. Thank you very much. Okay, good question. So the AGV kit includes the drive unit, the control box, the marker sensor for the magnetic tape in our case, operation switch panel, and a drive unit lifter that enables you to move the AGV manually. Question was what's included in the AGV kit. So that's the basis. That's all you need to make something move from A to B. But from there, you can add safety sensors. You can add the signal tower, for example, bumper, what have you, PLC again. But the point is, you're starting from the bare minimum and deciding how much you need from there. So the question is, what if you need an AMR system? So AMR system is going to be a little bit different, especially from our application. We focus on the magnetic tape in the United States, which means that you have a track. Now an AMR solution is more autonomous. It's going, kind of in all directions, and it's going to have to be more flexible in terms of the path. Now for that kind of scenario, our solution is not going to be the best. But if you're looking for something that's more like a production line or just moving goods from, let's say, a supply dock to a warehouse or a warehouse to a production area, something simple like this AGV is all that you need. And that's where I caution people who are looking at AMRs, because they see these AMRs, they're like, wow, this thing is like moving around all on its own. It's beautiful. I mean, what can it do? That's great. I mean, you're right. It's a beautiful technology. They offer a lot of very nice solutions, very sophisticated solutions, but is that really what you need is what you have to ask yourself. Say it one more time, please. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the question was, do we provide modules for other functions like, for example, cleaning or stocking or something like that? The answer is basically yes. So this is where the integration comes in. Now, as I mentioned, we're suggesting that you build your own AGV. If you have those capabilities to program the ladder logic, maintain the PLC, engage the forklift or whatever it is, by all means, you're welcome to. Now, with our integration capabilities, the answer is yes. We can provide solutions like that, and we have that. It could be something like a forklift AGV, where it's picking up a pallet, lifting it up, bringing it to the next station. That's possible. The thing is that it's not totally autonomous, meaning that it's not going to go to every single location in your facility. It's going to go on the track. Okay? Cleaning was another example. We don't have any experience with like a kind of automated floor scrubber or something like that, but we have implemented one in a hospital where it's actually taking medication to patients throughout the hospital. This is not in the United States. This is actually in Asia, so I don't know too much about it. But the short answer to the question is yes. A lot of different things are possible, especially when you implement the PLC. You can have it interact with all kinds of different systems on the AGV, even using a kit-type solution. So the AGV kit, so the question was, do I have any other forms of navigation other than the magnetic tape? Short answer is yes, but we are focusing on the magnetic tape in the United States. Simply for the cost effectiveness. Now it can be integrated with laser triangulation that's been done in the past. I tend not to recommend it, however. The reason that we don't recommend it is that because it tends to skyrocket the cost, and there's not a huge advantage over laser over magnetic tape. Magnetic tape, the qualms or reservations about magnetic tape tend to be things like forklifts, floor scrubbers, things like that, kind of tearing up the magnetic tape, and you feel like you're replacing it all the time. I'll say two things about that. First thing I'll say about that is we have magnetic tape delivered to really heavy industrial settings. We're in several Japanese car manufacturers. It's a production-heavy environment. They have heavy-duty forklifts, floor scrubbers, you name it, going over the magnetic tape. But the system holds up. I mean, they're trusting this with production. Another thing about the magnetic tape is that, okay, let's say that some gets torn off. It's not going to make the system fail. Couple inches off the magnetic tape, the AGV is still going to run. It's when you get closer to a foot or so that the magnetic tape is going to, the lack of magnetic tape is going to fault out the AGV, and you're going to have to replace it. So I think there's some misconceptions about magnetic tape, but I'm a proponent of magnetic tape. It's cost effective, it's reliable, and it gets the job done. You don't have to worry about maintenance that much. I mean, you might have periodic maintenance where you're replacing parts that are missing, but if a SLAM system goes down, for example, chances are you're calling the supplier. Any other questions? Comments? So the question was, what is the cost? So as I mentioned, let's go back to some of these to give you more of a context, because it can be a loaded question, as I alluded to in the presentation. So let's say you want something like this. This is very basic, okay? Depends on the weight, the capacity that you want to tow. This one's capable of 2,200 pounds, 1,000 kg, okay? everything that you see here, including the pipe frame, the batteries, the sensors, the drive unit, control box, and so on, this is less than $20,000. And again, this includes the software as well. So I think you could probably get cheaper than this. Depends a lot on the added features that you want, also the weight capacity. If you're doing something lower weight, I would say you could probably get this under $10,000. $10,000, signed, sealed, delivered, no software cost or anything like that, I think is very reasonable in terms of ROI.
Booth number?
Our booth number is 2229. Question was, how much weight would the $10,000 solution cost? Answer to that is 1,100 pounds, so it's 500 kg. Booth number again is 2229, and the company is Meiden. Okay, there's no more questions. Thank you very much for your time. I hope to see you at our booth, 2229 again, and I hope you think differently about the AGV market. Thank you. Bye-bye.